I'm Linda Derry, host of the CISTA Girl Environmental Club TV show. And today, my guest is very important, Andy Newby. He is the chairman of the PYO and president of the Music Alley Entertainment. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Can you talk a little bit about your organizations?
I would love to. Positive Youth Organization. We're based in Harlem, New York, and we are now extended into Queens, where our founder, Gary Weathersby, he's based in Queens, but we're now operating out of Harlem, New York. What we do is we help our youth, all male or female, to express their feelings, the things that's troubling them in the world today, that might be troubling them in life, giving them some issues that they want resolution on. We create projects, music projects, that help them to tell their story, help them to make it a little lighter in their heart, and allow the world to share their concerns. And that's what we do with Positive Youth. Music Alley Entertainment, we're the musical arm of it. We do commercial music, and we also introduce these youth to the world of the music entertainment industry. So that way, if that's what they choose to pursue in life, they see a realistic view of it and not what's just shown on TV through videos and so forth. There's an entire business behind music that you need to master before you can really get out there and make music.
Yeah, these are very important topics that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Having the youth express their feelings.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of times people have feelings bottled up inside,
That's
and they
right.
need somebody to let loose on, kind of.
Exactly.
And also, which is another important problem in the world today, that a lot of things are glorified, and not everything in life is that easy.
Exactly.
And it's good to not sugarcoat it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, television tends to give us an unrealistic view of the problems that's real in life.
Yeah.
It can make things seem lighter than it is, or it can make things seem heavier than it is. In our experience, what we come to find out, and particularly our world as a whole, let's look at the global warming situation that, of course, we're going to be talking about today. But I don't think television allows our youth to get a full grasp of how serious this situation is.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that with you and the program that you're doing, which is a wonderful program, I'm hoping that you can help spread the word to our youth population.
Definitely.
That they can help. They're a big part of this puzzle.
And definitely, especially because of the youth,
Yes.
it's very important, because a lot of people don't realize, a lot of adults and youth don't realize, global warming is in our lifetime.
Yes.
And it's affecting us. And even if you don't believe it is going to be in your lifetime, it's going to be in your offspring's lifetime, and your children's.
That's right.
And your younger generations of family lifetime.
Yes.
So it's important to take care of your community now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what kind of pushed the Paris Agreement.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that I know is our topic, we could jump right into it, because for years, various countries have been trying to come up with a formula, a plan that would work globally for each country to do their part to reduce the harm that we're doing to our world. So, you know, it failed a few times, and then finally, I believe it's 196 countries, including the United States, finally agreed to a path that we can all take collectively to help our environment to survive.
That's great.
Right now, the way that it's going, we have less than, and I know it sounds like a lot, but we have less than 1,000 years on this planet if we don't reverse the effects that we're having.
Wow, and that's really crazy.
And that's really crazy.
And a few fun facts, well, they're actually not very fun at all, but a few facts on global warming, because global warming is on everybody's mind now. It's a global problem, and it's also not, I actually learned in our environmental class, it's not exactly global warming. They've kind of changed the name to global climate change, because it's not only the warming and the melting of the polar ice caps and everything.
Right.
There's also tornadoes and hurricanes, which, as you may know, if you don't know, we'll touch on it really quickly. It's a mix of hot air and cold air, I believe. And cold air isn't exactly warming, and a lot of other global phenomena that actually never used to happen before.
That's right.
Like tornadoes and hurricanes weren't around until these recent years.
Well, I mean,
around this big.
We just had a major storm a few years back here in New York, and it flooded our coastlines. So imagine that times 10.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what would happen if the polar ice caps in Antarctica and all these places, if the temperature raises another 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius globally, that will create a melting of these polar ice caps. And you've ever taken a rock and drop it into a cup of water?
Yeah, I have.
And when you drop that rock in, the water spills over. Well, what happens is this polar ice cap, the size of America, in essence, a country, is going to drop into this glass. It's got to overspill. And when it overspills, it's coming to all the shorelines. All these coastal cities and everything will be flooded. It will be the new Atlantis. We'll be visiting Miami undersea. We'll be visiting Australia undersea. All these coastline countries, or cities rather, will be underwater.
True.
And I don't think people really realize the gravity of that. New York, we're surrounded by water.
Yeah.
We're
coastal. We're on the East Coast.
Exactly.
And a little fact is that in the next 30 years, speaking of the polar ice caps and glaciers, in the next 30 years, all of the glaciers in Glacier National Park are expected to disappear.
That's right.
And the next 30 years is in our lifetime.
That's what I was getting ready to point out. That means if you took a trip now and went to that park and you took pictures just to kind of consolidate and hold on to your memories, you go back in 30 years, it's not there.
Yeah.
And imagine what that means to our environment.
It's crazy.
Because there's plant life, there's animal life that depends on that glacier. Those animals are now gone. Those plants are now gone.
Yeah.
So that means if there were humans that relied on those plant lives and animal life to survive on their own, those humans can no longer live in that environment.
True. And also kind of the opposite of global warming is that of the melting of polar ice caps because it's cold. 14 out of the 15 warmest years on record have all occurred in the 21st century.
Yes.
And you have to keep in mind that technically the 21st century has only been going on for 16 years.
Yes.
So that means 14 of those years were the warmest on all record. And 14 out of the 15.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
So now, this is the beginning of the 21st century. So halfway through, we would have already lost the glaciers, we would have already lost, and then the polar ice cap situation is going to get worse. Imagine if we're having these types of hurricanes and tornadoes and floodings and so forth now where we are. Imagine in 30 years what we're going to be having.
That's going to be crazy.
It's going to be crazy.
Look, global warming is a current topic of conversation all over the world.
Yes.
And so is the Paris Agreement. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Sure. As we were saying earlier, finally 196 countries
Which is a lot.
Oh yeah, that's a great amount. Have come together and they've agreed on a pathway that as countries collectively, we can each play a role and
Work together.
reduce, the greenhouse effects, the emission effects, the ozone erosion. We can do our part. See, now the problem is each country that's a part of this agreement have different challenges. In the United States, we manufacture major items, cars, homes, boats. We do all of that. That building process releases toxins into our environment. We run our automobiles on gasoline. That burns, it releases toxins in the environment. We have factories that burn coal, do all this stuff and releases into the environment. These other countries have other things that they do that releases into our environment. Now, the problem with the Paris Agreement was one country might say, yes, we can do that, and it wouldn't affect their economy. If we said, yes, we can do certain things, it would affect our economy. So what we had to do in the Paris Agreement, they had to come up with ways of allowing each country to essentially gauge themselves. So with the
a compromise.
A compromise. So with the United States, we have agreed to do everything possible to reduce our harmful effects through clean energy, through going away from the carbon producing gases and so on and so forth. We've agreed to try to go solar, try to go biodiesel, try to go in all these different routes. And that's great. the problem is now we as a country may not be living up to those agreements
Yeah.
because we're changing administration, we're changing government, and if the new people coming in don't see it that way, that might slow things down.
Yeah, and we have to make sure that we keep up a steady pace.
Exactly, and do our part.
Yeah. Here are a few little facts and some information on the Paris Agreement. One little fact, I guess you could say, is that it is said that, and I kind of believe it too, that the Paris Agreement isn't a real important turning point in the world, because in this agreement, the words such as low carbon economy and continued innovation in the technology, energy, finance, and conservation of our world are all mentioned in the agreement.
Right.
And this is a turning point, as in this will change, hopefully, if it can go through. Hopefully it does. It will spark something, hopefully, and change it,
right.
so that, and as you said, in the next 1,000 years, we don't have to find a new planet, and that we don't have to start conserving even more than we already try to do.
Right. Well, I tell you, what's real interesting about this Paris Agreement is it's kind of like a good faith agreement, where even though these countries signed off on it, there's still so many steps that they have to take, so many things that, exactly, this is just the beginning. And what's going to happen is, like you'll find in some good faith agreements, there's countries that's going to want to do it and will do it, and there's going to be countries that say it's just too much. It's too much of a burden on our economy.
Yeah.
There's going to be countries that, whoever is in charge of that particular industry might feel it's too much money for them to make such a change.
Yeah.
And in our environment, money drives a lot of decision, unfortunately. They don't think of the human cost before they think of the financial cost.
Yeah.
And that's what our downfall might be.
And the Paris Agreement is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yes, so to speak.
That sounded so much better in my head. And also, the deal acts as any nation that is signing, of the 196, to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by the highest possible, and to be specific, keep their aim is to keep the warming well below 2 degrees Celsius, or their main goal, 1.5 degrees Celsius. Can you explain those numbers?
Absolutely. At 1 degree higher, globally, it's affecting the polar ice caps, Antarctica, all those cold places that we are not really versed on how much we rely on those places. Clean water. They say 75% of the Earth's clean water
Is in glaciers.
is in the glaciers.
Yeah.
Once that's gone, what are we going to drink?
And true. And also, I know that, and especially at our school, 1 degree can change if we're going to recess or not.
That's right.
And they don't realize that's so much of a problem for some people.
Yes.
And they don't realize 1 degree in the entire world
That's
globally can change if we'll be underwater in the next few minutes or not.
Yeah, and not only that, think about this. Okay, so we're talking about water, but let's go to dry land for a minute. Let's look at the trees in the rainforest, the trees that we've already cut down and they're gone and won't come back, even if we plant them now. Right. So now, when the temperature goes up, these trees have their own reaction that's going to kick off the release of carbon dioxide and so on and so forth. When we cut down trees, we force carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So by killing the rainforest, killing these forests and plants and so forth, we are actually harming ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why in this country we went on such a rampage to replant all the trees we cut down.
Yeah.
Because by the time they finally realized the harm they were doing to themselves,
It's kind of too late.
it's kind of too late. And they're panicking to backtrack on this thing. But it takes a tree about 100 years to grow.
True. And also, I have an amazing quote. I actually have it in my room.